Hello and welcome back. Today we're taking a look at a video called How Immigrants Have Helped Benefit Sweden from MSNBC. Let's check it out.
And Ambassador Brzezinski, clearly you're hooked in with Sweden. So exactly what did happen in Sweden Friday night before the president spoke?
Good morning. I can report to you that the most nefarious thing that happened in Sweden in this past weekend was technical difficulties at the Melfest Music Festival.
Well, let's hope the Melfest Festival goes better than the other ones we've been hearing about in Sweden. A simple Google search shows dozens of stories about the growing rates of rape and sexual assault at Swedish music festivals. It's an epidemic, and it's usually not locals who are getting caught fondling women. It's the immigrants Sweden has foolishly let in willy-nilly. They've invited the wolves into the sheep's lair.
Nothing more than that. But actually, there's a more serious underpinning to what happened this weekend in terms of the president's statements, in the sense that it does seem like he's building a narrative on an improvisational basis based on what he sees on cable news and on news reports.
This guy's saying Trump is improvising based on what happens in the news like it's a bad thing. That's kind of how people live their lives. Things happen, they react, and then they improvise a solution. Maybe this guy has to have scripts written for him, but Trump doesn't.
That is a dangerous thing to do, as seen by this example.
There's nothing dangerous about this example, though. Trump mentioned the horrible things happening in Sweden, and the mainstream media inferred that he meant there was some kind of event that happened the night before. Perhaps Trump didn't word things exactly right, but he never said there was an attack or anything like they're suggesting. In fact, he quickly clarified his remarks a bit later on Twitter, but these lefty reporters just won't let it go.
And then secondly, it doesn't seem that he's relying on the national security process within the White House. If there had been a terrorist attack in Sweden, one of our closest partners, the president would have been briefed on it by his national security team. That couldn't have happened. So there's a more serious underpinning to this as well.
Yeah, we all know there wasn't an attack, but there are troubling things that have been happening in Sweden the last couple years. Just because Trump misspoke or wasn't as specific as the mainstream media would like, doesn't mean there's nothing going on in Sweden. They've let in hundreds of thousands of Muslim refugees who are causing lots of problems. Crime is up, resources are dwindling, and Sweden is now the rape capital of the world. Congratulations. In its attempt at virtue signaling, Sweden has made its own people more likely to get raped, robbed, or killed.
And that's why the Swedes and others around the world were completely befuddled by what the president was talking about. And when it comes to things as sensitive as immigration or terrorism, you have to be factually absolutely accurate.
If this guy really cared about accuracy, he wouldn't be inaccurately quoting Trump here.
Sweden did take in hundreds of thousands of immigrants from Syria, from Yemen, from Somalia over the last couple of years. They see themselves as a humanitarian superpower. Think about that. Sweden, 10 million people, about the size of the state of Virginia, taking in hundreds of thousands of political asylees.
That's Sweden taking in a number of refugees that's over 1% of its total population. And when these immigrants have a different language, a different religion, just an all-around different worldview, we see the horrible culture clashes like Sweden is experiencing today.
This is Annika Henroth-Rothstein. She's a Swedish journalist who has extensively covered the Middle Eastern migration into Sweden.
What we have is, first of all, a Swedish culture. Then we bring in, like last year, 190,000 people that come from a very different culture, a culture that isn't liberal, that has radically different views on women, on sexuality, on gender, on all of these things. There's an explosion.
Yeah, it will be clashes.
And yes, it's been expensive and difficult at times to help move forward the assimilation.
But the immigrants aren't assimilating. They're not even trying. In fact, the Muslim refugees are creating their own private neighborhoods in Sweden, strongholds where they can do whatever they want, including practicing Sharia law. It's gotten so bad, Swedish police have labeled many of these areas as no-go places, meaning the cops have given up on even trying to control things there anymore. It's pretty fucked up.
This is Rinkby, a leafy northern suburb of Stockholm, also a completely Islamic area. The police have said this is a complete no-go for them and for journalists. Here, a 60 Minutes crew from Australia is attacked while doing a story on Rinkby.
In order to come here and to prosper, you have to adapt to that culture. And that what we're doing in Europe is the complete opposite. They are saying, how can we adapt to you?
Do you think that Sweden has a responsibility to adapt to the immigrants' culture coming in.
Definitely.
Should a woman, when they come here, dress, modestly, with pants and with sleeves? Is that important?
It is our culture.
But they are absolutely committed to it, and that has benefited the country. Take a look at its economy. Sweden's economy is booming. Swedish industries like Skype, Spotify, Minecraft, the tech industry is doing extremely well.
If Sweden's economy is doing well, it's in spite of the migrant crisis, not because of it. These Muslim immigrants aren't getting jobs or contributing to the economy. Out of the hundreds of thousands of immigrants, only like 500 have gotten full-time work. So all these Muslims are doing is taking up space in Sweden, robbing and raping its citizens, and they're even getting free money from the government while they do it.
And the movement, of course, is flowing toward the country with the most generous social benefit system.
The type of benefits that immigrants receive in Sweden are significant and are all-encompassing, and include housing, food, education, and additional cash. Does the government give enough to the immigrants?
Yeah. Everything's enough.
There's no seeable benefit for Sweden here, only losses. As far as I can see, the only benefit Sweden receives from its immigrants is they can say, hey, we're better than other countries because we take in refugees. We're the humanitarian superpower. Essentially, virtue signaling is the only benefit here, if you can even call that one.
In a follow-up tweet, the president seemed to blame his misinformation on a Fox News report on some kind of crime wave, immigrant crime wave in Sweden. Is there any accuracy to the underlying problem he was talking about there, some kind of crime wave there?
I saw that, and it was good that the president immediately tweeted to clarify. And the crime statistics, the crime rates in Sweden have been relatively constant over the last 10 years.
Are these guys fucking serious? How can you be on a supposed news show and not know about the crime waves in Sweden? MSNBC is fucked.
And there's been no uptick in any major way. The biggest uptick, according to the State Department's crime reports, is in computer fraud.
I think the biggest uptick would be that there's more rape in Sweden than in any other country on the planet. Since Sweden started taking in Muslim immigrants in 1975, reported rapes have gone from 450 to over 6,000 per year. But that's probably just a coincidence though, right?
You know, it's important to recognize that American diplomats in Sweden have telegraphed this message, that America embraces immigrants, and it's been good for us. And I think that to undercut that important message when the Swedes really in certain ways are providing an important international service and through their generosity and allowing people to come in.
Again, this is the real reason Sweden has taken in these refugees, despite it not being in their best interests. They think they're doing a service to the rest of us Western countries. Well, they're not. That's based on a couple false assumptions. First, they're assuming taking in refugees is noble and should be praised. Sure, I can see the humanitarian notion here, but if the immigrants are going to bring crime and drain resources from your country, you just look stupid when you're letting them in, Sweden. And the second false assumption is that if these Muslim immigrants didn't go to Sweden, they would have to go to another Western country. So Sweden is essentially taking the bullet for us. But this isn't true either. The migrants are going to Sweden because they're dumb enough to take them and offer them food, shelter, and money. If they didn't go to Sweden, they would probably go to neighboring countries in the Middle East. Shit, Saudi Arabia has millions of tents and refugee camps that are just sitting empty right now. Why doesn't a Muslim country take in the Muslim refugees? The other thing about saying Sweden is taking the bullet for the West, well, that pretty much neuters the point of your video title, MSNBC. If taking in refugees is taking a bullet, that means they're not a benefit, they're a burden.
I'm curious, you were speaking about your time on the National Security Council, and you certainly understand the role that process plays at the White House.
That's right.
It's unlikely that Donald Trump is ever going to want the kind of process that presidents have historically relied upon, and he's so far rejected the national security making process.
I don't think she can really say with authority that Trump is rejecting the national security making process. Perhaps he's amending it, making it his own, but we can't say he's just not doing his job. And just because he does things differently doesn't mean he's fucking it up. Things will change a little bit with every passing president. Hell, every passing year, really.
How do you see it proceeding if he continues to reject any kind of national security policy-making process?
Well, at least the national security policy-making process there is there to help him handle the super fast and massive undertaking of the responsibility of the world's only superpower and developing a global approach. The fact is that no one person or no just a couple people can do this alone.
These guys are being quite ridiculous at the end here. First they say Trump is improvising policy. Next he's not using the National Security Council. And now they're saying Trump isn't using his advisors or something. This is all bullshit speculation. They don't know what the fuck is going on in the White House. I'm sure Trump is using the National Security Council as he sees fit. For all we know, the NSC could have told Trump to say this about Sweden. You ever think of that, MSNBC? Maybe this was part of the White House's plan to get Sweden's immigration problems into the spotlight. I mean, however accurate Trump's words were about things in that speech, he certainly achieved his goal. We're all talking about Sweden now, and despite the mainstream media trying to say there was no specific event this weekend in Sweden, that red herring they set up really didn't work. And now people are talking about Sweden's problems more than ever. Hopefully more of the truth comes out as people start to see how badly this immigrant crisis has crippled them.
The only point is that Trump, through his in a non-factual statement, made you think about exactly what he wants you to think about, which is, hey, immigrants might bring with them crime. And maybe it's already happening in Sweden, and that's a good example to look at. Now, what would be less crazy than continuing to do something that works every time?
In the end, Sweden receives no real benefits from taking in Muslim refugees. The only suggested perk is being a self-declared humanitarian superpower, and that's just a bullshit title no one really cares about. No one respects Sweden for taking in violent criminals who are hurting their own people. They just look fucking dumb. Thankfully, America has Trump to stop that from happening here. What do you guys think? Did Trump misspeak, or is he playing the media again? Is there problems with crime and rape in Sweden? Is there any real benefit from taking in Muslim refugees? Comment below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time. Hello everyone. We wanted to take an extra minute and have you take a look at these little cute guys. That's Kittens and Mitten Kittens and Stinker and Whittly Doo. Those are some of the harmless kittens that have been surviving off of the No Bullshit Patreon account. Go down to No Bullshit Patreon store and donate your money now to save cats and save lives, and just be a good person, and don't be a dick. You know, don't be a dick for once. For one time, give us your money to save cats. One more way you can support the No Bullshit Show is buying our merch. We've got all kinds of shirts, mugs, white shirts, black shirts, hoodies, all kinds of cool stuff at our Teespring store. If you're looking for some swag, I definitely recommend checking it out. And all the proceeds go right back into the show so I can make more videos for you guys. Thanks so much for your time. Goodbye again.